morning again, and welcome. Today we have Jesus in a house, in a very crowded house, and he is seated and teaching the people. And there are so many people that they're out through the door onto the street, trying to listen to him, and I'm sure in some cases trying to touch him, to be cured. And in this situation, Mary and the cousins arrive, and they want to speak with Jesus because they'd heard a rumour that had gone around that Jesus had lost the plot. Jesus had flipped because he wasn't even eating or drinking or sleeping, taking care of himself. So they came, obviously, to talk with him or maybe take him in care. Anyhow, Jesus there receives the message that his mother and his brothers are standing outside and want to speak with him. So Jesus looks at the crowd around him and he says, "My mother and my brothers are those who hear the word of God and put it into practice." And it's an interesting little twist because here is the word of God made flesh, sitting amongst them and speaking with them. And so I was thinking, if they were to listen to him, listen to the word of God amongst them, and especially the parables, if they listen to the Good Samaritan and how Jesus finishes that parable and addresses the lawyer and says, well, of the three, of the priest, the Levite and the Samaritan, who was the real neighbour to the victim? And he says, well, I suppose the one who did something for him. And Jesus says, you're right. Now go and do the same yourself. Or in the prodigal son, the other great parable, or one of the other great parables. And Jesus says there, the father says to the wayward son or the resentful son, look, your brother was dead, is now alive. He's lost and has now been found. We have to celebrate. We have to do something. And then if they wanted to look at Jesus and see what he did. Jesus, as we said last week and the week before, was moved with compassion when he saw someone who was suffering or a people who were suffering. And we saw him heal the blind, for example. He made a paste with spittle and with some soil, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man and he recovered his sight. Or the leper who said to him, "Sir, if you want to, you can cure me." And Jesus said, "I want to." And he reached out and touched him. Or again, the man, the paralytic, beside the pool of Bethsaida. And Jesus says to him, "Do you want to be healed?" And then he says, "Get up, pick up your mat and walk home." And he does. So Jesus heals. And I was wondering about us. Do we also try to affirm, encourage, accompany, encounter, receive those who are maybe a little bit unsure, have failed in something, are downcast or worried? Because that's healing too. And then, of course, Jesus also forgave. And we have the beautiful one of the adulterous woman who was dragged before him, and the pious members of the Jewish society say she should be stoned for her sin. And ask Jesus, what does he say? And he turns to the woman, he says, I don't condemn you either. Go now and sin no more. His concern is for the sinner, not the sin. And how many times Jesus forgives. I have come not to condemn, but to reconcile. And I was wondering about our own way of living together. Do we forgive those who offend us? Sometimes intentionally, but most frequently inadvertently. Do we forgive just as God forgives us and forgives them? And then, of course, there are the outcasts, the marginal, those who were maybe not too acceptable in our society. But Jesus practiced the inclusion. Jesus shared table with tax collectors, who were not nice people, Pharisees, who were rather self-righteous, and women, who were excluded, and kids, excluded even more in that society. And Jesus shared table with them. He included everyone. And of course the question is, do we? The handicapped. There's those with special needs. It's worth looking at and thinking about, because there's another phrase that I like very much. Faith without works is dead. It's really not enough to say that, I'm a Catholic, or I'm a Christian, or I'm a believer, or I'm a good parent, or I'm a good child, or son or daughter. What do we do? When Jesus had the scene of the last, or at least when Matthew presents the scene of the Last Judgment, Jesus says, I was hungry, I was thirsty, and you gave me. So come, enter into the kingdom. And he likewise says, I was hungry, I was thirsty, and you didn't. Go away. So we have to do. It's not enough to just claim a title. Because Jesus said in the parable there, of the gospel there, it's not just a case of being called or being named. It's a case of doing. And so the invitation, I think, today, amongst many of things there, the invitation today is to listen to the Word of God. Listen to it. I mean, that's an action. Not just hear it, but really listen to it and put it into practice, as Jesus himself did. The Word made flesh, the Son of God living amongst us as one of us, and the fantastic difference he made in the world. So have a great week. Look after yourself and look after one another. And we'll see you next week by the grace of God. Take care.